The Council of Eldest Minds convened in their luminous sphere chamber, floating 300 meters above the violet oceans of Kethria Prime. Elder Voss, his six sensory tendrils quivering with barely contained anxiety, addressed the assembled gathering with a voice that trembled through the translucent air. "They are coming," he announced, and the chamber fell into suffocating silence. Commander Thex laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed off the curved walls like breaking glass, sharp and dismissive. The humans? Those primitive bipeds who only achieved faster-than-light travel 40 cycles ago? Forgive me, Elder Voss, but I believe your age has finally caught up with your judgment. Oh, how wrong he was. How spectacularly, catastrophically wrong. 3 orbital rotations later, Thex stood on the bridge of the Kethrian flagship Inevitable Dawn, staring at his tactical displays with an expression that could only be described as existential horror mixed with profound confusion. The human fleet had materialized at the edge of their defensive perimeter exactly 17 minutes ago, and nothing, absolutely nothing, made any logical sense. Report. Thex barked at his sensor operator, a young officer named Prill who looked like she might vomit her last meal across the pristine console. Sir, they are broadcasting on all frequencies. Music, sir. They are playing what our translators identify as heavy metal rock, combined with classical orchestral arrangements, and something called techno remix. Prill's voice climbed higher with each word. The energy signatures are off the charts. Their shields are fluctuating in rhythm with the bass frequencies. Thex felt something cold settle in his primary stomach. Weapon status? That is the problem, Commander. Prill turned her multifaceted eyes toward him, reflecting the crimson warning lights that now bathed the bridge. We cannot distinguish their weapons from their engines, their communications array, or their waste disposal systems. Everything on those ships appears to be dual-purpose, triple-purpose, or possibly just duct-taped together with aggressive optimism and complete disregard for conventional physics. The lead human vessel, a monstrosity that looked like someone had welded a cargo hauler to a warship to a luxury yacht and then covered the whole thing in advertising billboards and warning stickers, moved forward. Its hull bore a name in garish yellow letters, the Audacious Miscalculation. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Dreth, his vocal sacs inflating with stress. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a human female with shocking purple hair, wearing what appeared to be military attire combined with casual sporting clothes and at least 17 visible weapons. She smiled, and Thex understood immediately why Elder Voss had been terrified. "Greetings, Kethrian forces. I am Captain Morgan Vale of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet, and wow, your planet looks absolutely gorgeous from up here." Her enthusiasm was so genuine, so thoroughly inappropriate for a military confrontation, that Thex felt his combat training completely fail him. "We received your very polite request that we not enter this sector, which we super appreciate, truly. But here is the thing." She paused, and Thex watched with mounting dread as her smile transformed into something that could only be described as predatory joy wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. "We have a missing science vessel that was last tracked to coordinates inside your territorial boundary. The crew consists of 47 humans, 3 of whom are bringing their children home from an educational expedition. So, you see our predicament? We need to collect our people, and we are absolutely going to do that, with or without your cooperation." Thex activated his own transmission feed. "Captain Vale, you are outnumbered 17 to 1. Your vessels are classified as light exploration class at best. Stand down, transmit the coordinates of your missing ship, and we will retrieve your crew for you. This is your only warning before we open fire." Morgan's laugh could have powered a small sun. "Oh, Commander. You checked our ship classifications. That is adorable, really. But here is something fun about humans that your databases probably did not mention." She leaned forward, and her eyes glinted with something ancient and terrifying. "We do not actually classify our ships by their combat capabilities. We classify them by how much coffee the crew needs to function properly. She gestured off-screen. Fire control, please demonstrate what a quote-unquote light exploration vessel can actually do when sufficiently caffeinated and mildly annoyed. The Audacious Miscalculation's exterior suddenly unfolded like a mechanical flower from hell itself. Panels retracted, weapons emerged from what Thex had assumed were decorative hull features, and the ship's energy signature increased by 4,000% in approximately 2 seconds. Defensive positions. Thex roared, but Prill was already screaming contradictory sensor readings, and Dreth had fallen backward in his acceleration couch, and the bridge lights were flickering because apparently the human vessels were jamming everything including basic electrical systems with nothing more than aggressive electromagnetic shouting. Elder Voss had tried to warn them. The ancient being had spoken of humans who turned physics into suggestions, who treated probability as a personal insult, who faced impossible odds with weapons-grade stubbornness and terrifying creativity. Thex had not listened. None of them had listened. And now, as the Audacious Miscalculation positioned itself between his entire fleet and Kethria Prime like a madwoman defending her children with a smile and enough firepower to crack a moon, Thex finally understood what Earth's fury actually meant. The standoff lasted exactly 43 seconds before everything went completely sideways, which, Thex was learning, was standard operating procedure when humans were involved. Commander, multiple vessels are breaking formation. Prill's voice had reached frequencies that Thex's species typically reserved for mating calls or existential panic. Wait, no. They are not breaking formation, they are doing something else entirely. Sir, are they dancing? Indeed, the human fleet had begun executing a series of coordinated maneuvers that defied every tactical manual ever written in the known galaxy. Ships rolled, dipped, and weaved through space in patterns that looked less like military formations and more like some kind of ritualistic performance art designed to induce seizures in enemy sensor operators. This is psychological warfare, Thex muttered, trying desperately to maintain his composure while his tactical displays showed human vessels literally spelling out words with their flight paths. Words that roughly translated to, "Hello, we brought snacks." Captain Vale's voice crackled through the speakers again, still maintaining that unsettling combination of cheerfulness and barely restrained violence. So, Commander Thex, we have been scanning your defensive grid while performing our traditional greeting ceremony, which you just witnessed, and we have identified approximately 63 critical vulnerabilities in your formation. Should I list them alphabetically or by severity? Thex's secondary heart skipped several beats. You are bluffing. Oh, absolutely not. For example, your flagship's port shield generator has been running at 87% efficiency for the last 3 cycles due to a faulty plasma coupling that your maintenance crews probably keep meaning to fix but never quite get around to because paperwork is terrible everywhere in the universe. Morgan's grin widened. Also, your third defensive sphere has a 6.3-second gap in sensor coverage every time you rotate arrays, and somebody on your supply vessel is running an illegal gambling operation that is causing intermittent power fluctuations. Prill checked her instruments with trembling appendages. Sir, she is correct about all of it. How could they possibly know about the gambling operation? Because we have been monitoring your communications for the past 2 months, obviously. Morgan continued as if discussing the weather. Which brings us to the actually important part of this conversation. Your government has been holding our science vessel because our researchers accidentally stumbled onto one of your classified military installations while studying migratory patterns of space-dwelling organisms. Honest mistake, completely understandable, these things happen. Thex felt something inside him crack. If you knew where your people were, why this elaborate display? Morgan's expression shifted, and suddenly the jovial facade dropped away like shedding armor plating, revealing something cold and absolute underneath. Because you fired on them when they tried to leave. You detained scientists. You threatened children. And while we humans are generally friendly, occasionally chaotic, and frequently ridiculous, there is one universal constant about us that apparently did not make it into your intelligence briefings. She stood up, and Thex could see at least a dozen other humans moving behind her, all wearing similar expressions of calm, focused rage. We do not leave our people behind. Ever. Not for political convenience, not for territorial disputes, not for anything. Those 47 humans are coming home, and you get to choose whether that happens peacefully with apologies and possibly some cultural exchange programs, or whether it happens after we demonstrate why Earth survived everything from meteor strikes to nuclear war to artificially intelligent toasters that gained sentience and tried to burn down civilization. Thex looked around his bridge. Prill was staring at her console with defeated resignation. Dreth had begun composing what appeared to be farewell messages to his spawn clutches. His weapons officer had simply put his head down on his station and started making low keening sounds. Elder Voss had been right. Earth's fury was not about superior technology or overwhelming numbers. It was about the absolute, unshakable certainty that humans would sacrifice everything, risk anything, and improvise impossible solutions when protecting their own. Officer Prill, open a secure channel to Central Command, Thex said quietly. Inform them that I am ordering the immediate release of the human science vessel and full diplomatic immunity for all crew members. Unconditional, no negotiations. Morgan raised her eyebrows. Well. That was significantly easier than expected. I had a whole speech prepared about humanity's history of improbable victories, complete with visual aids and dramatic music. My tactical officer is actually kind of disappointed. Captain Vale, I have a question, Thex said, surprising himself with his boldness. Your ship, the Audacious Miscalculation, is that name meant to intimidate enemies or simply describe human military philosophy? Morgan's laugh returned, but this time it carried warmth instead of threat. Commander, it is both. We named her after humanity's greatest strategic advantage. Our enemies calculate probabilities, assess risks, and determine optimal outcomes. Humans? We miscalculate constantly, attempt impossible things because nobody told us they were impossible, and somehow survive through sheer stubborn refusal to accept mathematical reality. 3 hours later, the human science vessel departed Kethrian space with full honors, accompanied by formal apologies and several crates of what humans apparently considered peace offerings, which included something called hot sauce, caffeinated beverages that violated 7 safety regulations, and instruction manuals for proper duct tape usage. Thex watched the human fleet vanish into faster-than-light transit, their sensor signatures flickering out one by one until only empty space remained. Elder Voss contacted him personally afterward, his ancient voice carrying undertones of sympathy. You understand now, Commander? I do, Elder. Humans do not fight wars the way we understand warfare. They treat impossible situations as personal challenges, combine brutal efficiency with inexplicable kindness, and somehow make it all work through what can only be described as weaponized optimism and carefully managed insanity. Indeed. And now you know why the elders warned us. Not because humans are monsters, but because they are something far more dangerous. Voss paused meaningfully. They are friends who will burn entire star systems to protect those they care about, allies who will share their lunch while simultaneously planning 17 different ways to disable your fleet, and explorers who genuinely want peace but come prepared for absolutely anything. Thex deactivated the communication panel and looked at his exhausted crew. Crew rotation is suspended for the next cycle. Everyone gets double rest periods and unlimited access to our relaxation facilities. We survived first contact with humanity, and I believe we all need time to process what that actually means. As his bridge officers filed out, Thex allowed himself a small tremor of relief. Elder Voss had warned them about humans, and Earth's fury had indeed been gravely underestimated. But perhaps, just perhaps, having such allies might not be entirely terrible. Assuming they survived the coffee.